The Israeli military has carried out airstrikes on Nabatieh in southern Lebanon. The military has been striking the area sporadically, even after Lebanon and Israel signed a framework agreement last month to end hostilities. On Friday, Israel's military said it targeted several sites belonging to Hezbollah in the south. Since March, Israeli strikes have killed more than 4,300 people and displaced tens of thousands. Heidi Pett now joins us live from Beirut. Heidi, can you tell us more about this latest strike?
So this airstrike hit an area called Nabatieh al-Faw'a, which basically means the heights of Nabatieh. That's one of the cities in southern Lebanon that has seen very violent Israeli military activity over the last couple of months, and particularly in the lead up to this latest ceasefire, which came about as part of this framework agreement signed between Israel and Lebanon, but also because it was a clause in the memorandum of understanding signed between the US and Iran. What we know about this latest strike, or rather what we have from the Israeli side, they're saying that they hit Hezbollah fighters who they said posed a danger to their troops. Speaking to people on the ground in the area, from the civil defense, from the local hospital there, we don't have confirmation of the casualties, whether or not they were fighters or civilians. And part of the reason for that is that the civil defense teams have once again been unable to reach the site of that airstrike due to the threat of continued Israeli strikes in and around that area.
Heidi, where does this all leave this ceasefire? Is it holding at all?
It depends entirely what you mean by holding. What we have seen with this airstrike earlier this evening, about 6 p.m. local time here in Lebanon, and across the course of today, is continued Israeli military activity. So there was this airstrike, there has been artillery shelling on the village of Antara, and also in a village called Bereshit, where there was actually a mass funeral for civilians from that village. This is people who have been killed over the last couple of months of war, but their families were unable to bury them in their hometown until today. And while that was happening, there was artillery shelling on the outskirts of that town. There's drone strikes continuously. There are Israeli military overflights and the drone above us here in Beirut and across many other cities. And so when we talk about whether or not the ceasefire is holding, in Lebanon, those are all considered to be violations of the ceasefire. Now, the chief of staff of the Israeli military was in southern Lebanon recently saying that actually all of this activity is within their understanding of what's allowed within that framework agreement. And so when we talk about whether or not the ceasefire is holding, we're not necessarily talking about whether or not the Israeli military has stopped firing, because they have not. The question is whether Hezbollah is firing back. And at this point, aside from a couple of isolated incidents where lone fighters have kind of popped up from houses and places like that and attempted to make moves on Israeli troops, there hasn't been a significant Hezbollah military activity since that ceasefire. Now, there has been a bit of a war of words, Hezbollah MPs and leaders talking about this framework agreement being shameful, it not being acceptable to them. But the question is when or if the level of Israeli military activity is considered unacceptable to them, and whether that will trigger them beginning to fire back.
Heidi, thank you so much. Heidi Pett there joining us live from Beirut.